5. Thank you.
Sorry, okay.
Was there any public comment?
No public comment.
No.
Hey,
Okay.
Steve, lower your camera a little so we can see you.
So, a little housekeeping there.
That's
I'll let, there
better.
we go. Good. I'll let everyone review the minutes to our last meeting. This is the meeting in which we interviewed Emily Wicks. And so if you wouldn't mind just reviewing those, and I'll wait for a motion to approve.
I'll motion to approve, Frank.
Thank you, Kyle. Second.
I can second that.
All those in the minutes of our October 25th meeting signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you. Approved.
Aye.
Welcome, Sean.
Thank you. Hi, everyone.
Since Mario's not here yet, let's move on to the next item, which was review board assessment form. It's in your packet. This is an annual activity, and I noticed that this is the one that we've used last year. Do we use the same questions year after year so we have a sense of how things change over time, or is there any adjustments? I can't remember there being an adjustment.
We did, and Diana may be able to speak to this. I think the last time some changes were made, I think you and June worked together, Diana. So that was probably 2019, 2018.
Yeah, and I can't remember which year it was, and we pretty much changed a lot of it around at that point, but it's been the same ever since.
Diana and Steve, you two have played an important role in implementing this sort of collect the data. Two questions I have for you, if you could share. One, how much activity did you put into making sure everybody participated their forms in? And two, how did you compile that data to make recommendations? And both, in the past, I've heard you delivered to our governance committee and the full board sort of your abbreviation or sort of a synopsis of what the findings were. Can you tell us a little bit about that process?
You want to go first, Diana?
Well, I can say I pretty much based it off of what you had done, Steve. So I don't know if you had gone, by what past presidents have done with that also. So yeah, I would say though, for getting to get the responses, I had to send out a few, but I really did try to get 100%, and I think I was pretty close, but it does take a little bit of work. And I don't know if Steve found the same. And I feel it's easy to compile the numbers of the questions. It's when you get into the comments that it gets a little more complicated to compile the questions. Yeah, I think we got a lot of information from it. I think it's hard for people to find the time, some people to find the time to do it. But once they get to it, I think you get some good information. Steve?
Well, it certainly was the case that in order to get a good response, it required follow-up. So I did contact folks sometimes by email and sometimes by telephone to get them to respond. Perhaps I didn't take into account how busy they were in asking them to give us a response. So I might have been a little bit hard-nosed about it, but I found that was the only way to get an adequate response. And I recall compiling the information. I think it was both in terms of numbers and comments, and reviewing it with the board at a board meeting. That's my recollection. Cynthia probably has a better recollection than I do.
Well, I think, I wouldn't say that at all, but I, I think the way that we had thought about possibly setting it up, and we might have done this the last time, is that the responses would come through, and Frank would review with this committee at the January meeting and then present at the February board meeting. So you'd have a late January governance meeting and then the early February board meeting. So I would send this out, in the next, I may wait till after Christmas. I'll think about it, what makes the most sense, but send it out so people have enough time to respond, give them a couple of weeks.
Cynthia, when we're recruiting new board members and we tell them about what their responsibilities are on the board, do we include this as a responsibility?
We don't include the survey. We do have a board responsibility form, which this is something that the committee is going to review possibly at the January meeting. So we have board expectations. We have I'm just looking over at my work plan, the work plan here, board involvement. And they have to sign off that they're committed to doing, financial supporter, attending to events, et cetera, et cetera.
I think
But
that
if they don't get this, it might be, if that what you're suggesting, I think that's a good idea.
yeah,
myself.
I think anybody who says they don't have the time to fill out this form doesn't have the time to sit on the board either, because this doesn't require 3 days of work to fill out. It requires an hour or two. So I think that we should include that in expectations of board members.
Mhm.
I'm off my high horse now.
I agree. I think this is one of those, minimum requirements you have to do. We need this kind of feedback. It's healthy for the organization to get it. And actually, sometimes the ones that are hardest to track down, you get very good input. So it's worth the effort to get that information out there. Is there any, in reviewing it, did anybody have any changes that I noted one that you hand wrote in, Cynthia, about just updating that'll be going to Kyle. Okay. Are there any other changes to this form?
No changes, Frank, but I do have a question.
Yeah.
At risk of putting myself in harm's way here, am I negligent on this form at all? I just have so many balls in the air right now.
I believe we had 100% participation with last year with Diana. So I would, right?
Okay, good.
Oh, you're on mute, Diana, if you want to rebut that.
Yeah, I think we did pretty well last year. So, and yeah, I think we were good. So.
Yeah,
even
certainly
if you
as
things
members of
don't-
I would expect 100% participation by the governance committee. So at a minimum. But then, if we find that there's some that are lagging, myself or Kyle or one of the members of the governance committee can do some of that follow-up just to make sure. I'd love to try to continue to have that 100% participation. Diana?
there were people that when they filled it out that were fairly new, and they would just write that on there in the comments and to the best of my knowledge. And, so if we bring that up to people, to the best of your knowledge, as far as at this point, I was comfortable with that. And I just noted that in the comments. So, when we introduce it and put it out to the board, I think, that is maybe a helpful way for some people to feel more comfortable filling it out.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah, good point.
the best of their ability.
So this will come out from you, Cynthia, as an attachment to the board. And you were saying, so after Thanksgiving, before, like mid-December?
Yeah, I can send it out mid-December and then with a deadline of mid-January, maybe a reminder in early January, and then have Kyle's email that it needs to be sent to Kyle. Because I think the goal is to keep each person's piece confidential. So
Yes.
that, Kyle's the only one really seeing it, and then he can do a summary for the committee and then the board.
So,
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, Frank, go ahead.
just to follow up on that. So what we're saying is that we launch it, but then it's Kyle who assembles the data. Okay, as president.
Yes, I may have misspoke there, and I apologize. I think because the president of the board has been the governance committee chair, I think my brain was getting
Got it. Okay.
mushed up.
And so it's just that the governance committee is the first to receive that report that's summarized by Kyle.
Right,
All right.
right.
Cynthia, as an ex officio board member, I don't fill this out, right?
Not necessarily, but I think everybody would be okay if you wanted to.
Okay.
You go to a lot of,
I don't want to do something I'm not supposed to do.
yeah, just,
Frank will come after me.
Yeah, I'm real stickler for the.
no, I think you'll come after yourself. That's what
Okay.
I
Thank
think
you.
when my numbers were just for the board members at the time. I don't think my numbers last year included emeritus, but emeritus, fill it out. But I think our 100% numbers were for
Okay.
the not emeritus, didn't include emeritus.
I mean, I don't have to. I'm just asking. I don't want to screw up your numbers if I'm supposed to fill it out.
No,
Yeah.
that's,
Actually, so I would like 100% participation of active board members, right? Make sure we have that. And if it can go out to emeritus, I'd love to have that input because you're an active member of this committee and active member of the committee. So I think it would be important to have that, but I'm not looking to get 100% participation of our emeritus members, right? So just active members, I want 100%. I do want to make sure it's welcome. I think anytime we have input, it's helpful data points. So thank you for offering to do that, Betsy.
Thank you.
All right, if there's no other changes to this form, and I think we're good with the game plan of sending it out mid-December, I think we can move on to the next item. That's looking at the approval of the meeting dates for the upcoming year. I think that actually September 26th, it sounds like. Is that Rosh Hashanah?
Oh, gosh, I tried to check. Let's see.
I can't remember those. It might be, it's right around that time.
Let's see.
Just Google it.
Yeah, you're right. So Rosh Hashanah begins Sunday, the 25th at sundown.
Right.
So does it last I apologize for my ignorance. Does it last 24 hours?
Yeah. Can we just, that'd probably be a good date. Can we just go a week earlier than that? We're going to be, it's the middle of the school year. We'll be pretty active at that point. So.
Yeah, I'm just double checking the calendar.
19th.
Yeah, and switch that to the 19th, I think.
19th. Yep.
Yep.
How do the other dates look for everyone? Does anybody see any changes? I don't know, the Yukon calendar. I don't know, Kyle, do you know? I guess it doesn't make too much of a difference on the I'm just thinking of the spring break. But we'll probably be here anyway, so it doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, I don't think so.
All right. We don't need approval from the committee on this. I think we just move on. So we'll accept these as our dates for 2022 and advance those to the full board now. All right.
And Frank, I'm gonna sign for you if that's okay.
Yep.
With my bills, because then I have to give it to the town clerk.
Okay. We have the review of the board activity grid that we have listed on here. That's a point that you made, Betsy, whether we should have the filling out of the survey on here. I don't think I'm not sure that we need it, but I could be convinced if you think that that's a helpful point. I think it's since we have been having generally pretty good participation, I guess we're going to find out how hard it is to track these down. But any other comments on this? No. Cynthia, we had asked for some clarification about vacancies and who can fill those vacancies, and we asked you to just go to the attorney John for some guidance on that. Did you want to just cover some of that? The idea was when we have these vacancies, especially not the ones that are appointed by the town or by UConn, but the ones that are by elected members, because we had one resignation with Amanda Hanslick, how we can fill those. And we had a general question from this committee about can former board members serve in that role, and even if they've completed their two consecutive terms. And Cynthia went to John for some ruling on that. So Cynthia, do you have that with you? You have that
I do.
handy?
Yes. So, yeah, so John Zaccaro got back to us and he said, there's really no limitation, just gonna read what he said. There's no limitation on the board appointing a former member elected. I'm sorry, that's just reading funny. I'm a former member elected director to fill a vacancy until the next annual meeting. However, if that appointed director had just completed her or his second consecutive 3-year term, they would not be qualified to fill the vacancy permanently at the next annual meeting.
So in other words, they can fill a term just until the next meeting when we fill it with someone permanently. So they'd be more like a temporary member?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
But I also think, and I don't know that this is what you were asking originally, Frank, but I'm pretty sure that you can come back again after you're off for a year. Although I'm not sure how explicit it is, but I think that you can. It's the consecutive terms. You can't serve more than 2 3-year consecutive terms.
Right. Has that been discussed in the past? I'm looking to the senior members of the governance committee here about board members who have completed their term, rotated off, and then being able to fill a vacancy or being able to come back on the board. Has that been discussed in the past?
We did go to one former board member and ask if she would serve again, and she declined.
Okay.
So I think just once, if I'm remembering correctly, Steve.
I don't recall that specific instance, but I don't doubt that it did occur.
Okay.
But if it did occur, I don't recall any other conversation about that kind of situation.
Okay.
Cynthia, when we first had a board, that rule wasn't in place, was it?
That board members could come back? Or
Yeah.
the vacancy issue?
Yeah, or that there was a term limit on committees or,
Well, it depends how far back you want to go, Betsy. So there were a set of
my
bylaws.
age, you go back quite a long
Yeah.
time.
Oh, I'm trying to remember. So there were a set of bylaws before I got here that were, I think, either done or close to done. And there was a little bit of a brouhaha. Okay, Steve. And we were in the Mansfield Middle School auditorium going over our bylaws. So
Yes.
remember that?
Oh, yeah.
So, but I don't know that it was more about residency and things like that. I think these were in the original bylaws. I could be wrong though. I'm testing my memory here.
Okay, thanks.
Mhm. Part of the reason we brought that up is to, when we have a vacancy like Amanda's and you have a remainder of a term, it's great to be able to find people who have experience, not only in working on boards, but also with this group, to have a solid voice. So anyway, thank you, Cynthia, for bringing that to our attention. I want to now, if there's nothing further on the activity grid, I want to introduce our guest that we invited, return back to the second item on our agenda, which was, or the fourth item, which is check in with board members. So Mario, welcome to the Governance Committee. Thank you for joining us. This is part of our process where the Governance Committee wants to make sure that we're checking in with board members at different stages, right? And making sure that learn a little bit more about your involvement, what you're working on, and what you hope to get out of the partnership as a volunteer. So these, committees are meant for more of a informal discussion. So was hoping you could share with us just a little bit about your experiences.
So, well, thank you everybody for inviting me. Can you hear me okay? Good. Well, I appreciate the time and definitely appreciate the opportunity to be able to partake in this meeting this evening. I'll be honest, from a personal standpoint, I mean, I've always loved and not only loved working in Mansfield, but also volunteering where I can. I sometimes often find myself, I stretch myself too thin, especially in this year of change that we've all been experiencing. And there's only one of me, and I find that I should clone myself. So needless to say, as far as the Mansfield Downtown Partnership, I was excited to be a part of that. And when Cynthia approached me on becoming a part of the Finance Committee, I thought it was a great opportunity. And actually, Stephen also reaching out to me personally to touch base and see what it is that we can do or what I can do to offer my assistance in with the partnership. There have been a lot of changes that I've been going through. From a work standpoint, just this year alone, as you know, that People's United Bank is merging with M&T Bank out of Buffalo, New York. And as with any government type of regulation that we try to get through government, we're running into just a holding pattern. So we're still People's United Bank. We're not changing yet. However, there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes as far as my job, my role, and what the bank is planning on doing. I am staying, which is good. I'm currently in Colchester right now. Just to give you a little backstory, I apologize for being late. Staffing, if you've not already seen in the news, has been an issue, and I am experiencing it firsthand. I can't get anybody to work in banking. Unfortunately, even with the referrals that we have coming it is a unbelievable pain. But as far as with the partnership and what I've experienced thus far and when I've volunteered, it's kind of ironic. It's been a year now when we did the holiday, and I remember it raining. It was a rainy day when we were doing the festival outside, and remember doing that, and it was a great opportunity. And I can't even remember if it was last year or the year before, because it just seems to blend in together. And I'd wanted to get a hold of Denise to offer my assistance for this year as well, but I've just been so busy that I've not had the opportunity to even get a hold of her in email. As far as with the finance committee, having been on the committee, for over a year now, year and a half, it's been great when we've had the opportunity to get together and meet. And of course, with everything changing and doing things virtually, not all the time has that come to fruition. So I think there's still things and opportunities that we have to really take that hold. Where I feel that I've gotten from the partnership is really getting an understanding as to the community itself. I've lived in Mansfield for, oh my gosh, close to 20 years now. And to really be intimate with some of the things going on, behind the scenes in our community has really, given me a retrospect of the politics, if you will. And having my office be right there in Stores really sort of kind of gives me the pulse. And having been at the university with a branch for several years, again, understanding, what it is that it takes to sort of communicate, between the partnership and with the university and with the town people. So it's a daunting task. And I always say to Cynthia, my God, however it is that you do it, all the congratulations in the world for being such a great sort of director, mentor, in this realm. But, as far as things for the future and being a part of the partnership, I hope to continue. I am in this stage of flux, as I've sort of been in Colchester now for 5 months, actually working out of this office. So my office at Stores has been somewhat vacant without me, and my customers are finding me, but I'm sort of kind of detached right now, I guess, if you will. Again, being here in Colchester, learning the people in the community here, which is somewhat unique. I do miss Mansfield considerably, I have to be honest, because it isn't the same. But that's just part of the job. But I hope to be able to contribute more so going forward in the future, as things start to settle, especially as at the end of this year. It's hard to believe that, we're into December already, and before you know it, we're already planning in the spring. So.
Thank you, Mario. All right, I'll open it up to people who have questions. Mario, sometimes, one of the topics has been recruiting volunteers, whether it's for a committee, like festival committee, or for the board and stuff. Do you have any thoughts on or recommendations on how we should approach that, or feed in names to get people involved, or areas that we should be looking at?
Well, as far as the recruitment aspect of things, I mean, I think, working in Mansfield, living in Mansfield, I think it was one of those opportunities that existed because of my job. Part of it is to be out in the community, to get to know the business people, to get to know the businesses in the community, that type of thing. So I just found it to be a very great opportunity to meet. Although with COVID, of course, we haven't, been able to meet physically per se, and I am looking forward to this upcoming holiday. But in regards to recruitment, all I really can say is that, the referrals that we get, the opportunities that we have being in the festival, and the more that we're out there, in the community, and having people recognize, what it is that the Mansfield Downtown Partnership does, in support of the community, and how we sort of kind of interact as a liaison between, the town and the university. I think looking at people at, the festivals that we do, for example, the bike, the road race that we had done over the summer, I mean, it was a great turnout as the first time, having done that, to meet new people. And as far as to, if we were to, for example, solicit or ask people, who participate in some of those events, what they would consider possibly, joining the board or joining a committee to help volunteer, that type of thing. I don't know if we've done something like that possibly in the past. I think you see it every now and then when you go to an event, people are always looking, especially for those individuals who are there every year, year after year, and participating, in the event, what a great opportunity for them to see, hey, would you ever want to, assist us, in this event, in the future, that type of thing. But, I think that in and of itself, people's resources are somewhat finite. People's time is stretched, and depending upon how busy they are, definitely I can see that being a concern. I don't know after the new year what is going to hold for us, but I think as an opportunity to recruit, it would be, I would think at those events possibly to solicit and ask the question, you're here every year, we love the aspect of you joining and being a part of this, would you want to help, sort of behind the scenes?
Mhm, mhm. When did you start, Mario? I can't remember.
That's a great question. Cynthia, when did I start?
Well, I'm at home. I don't have my cheat sheet. 2
I
years
gotta,
ago, a year and a half.
I think it's 2 years.
that's
Yeah.
2 years. Yeah. It seemed like forever.
Well, have you ever been at an in-person meeting at the council chambers?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So it's longer ago than Emily. Okay. I'm just trying to
Yeah.
remember.
I mean, I remember, being a, part of the business in itself, as members, I've participated in that. And I remember being at the Hellenic, when it's been like, oh my God, hot and humid. So, yeah.
Great. Any questions from the committee from Mario while he's here? No, Mario, you caught a pretty timid crowd tonight. For some reason, you just lucked out.
It's a long Monday. It was a long Monday.
Right.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Kyle.
I'm curious, Mario, in your short tenure in Colchester, whether you have become enamored, as I am, of Harry's Place hot dogs, or if you're sticking with Gung Ho for Chinese, or maybe Inishmore for a quick Guinness and some.
I wish.
Nachos. Yeah.
Yeah, I wish. So speaking of Harry's, it's interesting. I actually did see the episode where they were on the Food Network or something like that. Years ago. And I can honestly say that I have been so busy in this office. I'm tethered here, so to speak. So, and of course with COVID, I've not been able to really reach out to the businesses that are out here. And there's a lot going on. I got to be honest. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on. They do an amazing job downtown, especially during the summer. Their grain is oftentimes what is the Colchester Business Association, the CBA, is a very big player, as I'm finding it to be. And as I meet more people, more businesses, the town, I work with the town, similar to how I work with the town of Mansfield, sort of kind of they're, getting to know me. So that's been a really good in as far as with the finance, with the tax collector, with the superintendent of schools, things like that. So it's been a process. So I haven't really been, I haven't had the opportunity really to get to know the community other than what it is that comes into the branch, the people that I've spoken with, as such. So
yeah, it's one of those. I live in East Hampton, so the town next door, and it's another one of those towns that's sort of benefited. They benefited from sort of that Hartford sprawl, right? So it's similar to, on 84, where it made its way all the way out to Tolland and a little bit beyond, and then down Route 2. Once it made its way through Glastonbury and Marlborough, now it's making its way to Colchester and a little bit beyond. And so but I think it's, I think it's interesting because now hopefully what you can provide for us a little bit is a perspective sort of on, and again, it's not like, I think one of the challenges that we have relative to Mansfield is trying to compare yourself to any town in Connecticut, because I can tell you the one thing that Mansfield has that no other town in Connecticut has is Yukon, and that makes it better. That makes it uniquely positioned,
Yeah.
generally speaking, but it also presents significant challenges relative to the in-season, out-of-season type of thing. So, but I guess I'd be curious, even in just a short time, whether is there a similar organization to what we're doing here, and where have they showed up at your place with coffee and donuts to say, hey, welcome to Colchester kind of thing, and to try to engage, I know they're not lacking for businesses in Colchester, right? I mean, the local little leagues and football and soccer club, they're probably turning sponsors away. But I'm just curious if there's anything that you've noted in your short time with them that in Colchester that that we could use as takeaways.
So I'll be honest. I mean, I'm a new to Colchester, and I'm finding what I find and what I'm seeing is it's a very close-knit community. Unlike Mansfield, yes, we're close-knit as well, but I think the difference, of course, lies in the number of businesses that are in the area. We don't have the businesses per se that like Mansfield or that Colchester does in comparison to Mansfield. And Colchester, the town folk are unique. A little more blue collar, a lot of smaller businesses, a lot of DBAs, LLCs, a lot of construction, things like that. So when I say close-knit community, there are only, I believe, 3 banks here in Colchester: People's, TD, and Dime. I don't even think TD, no. It's People's, Dime, and Liberty Bank. Those are the 3 banks that are here in Colchester. And what I find is that it's not big. I mean, it's spread out, but the Colchester Business Association is so entrenched, and it's almost as if you're going into some type of fraternity, sorority where you're pledging and you're having to sort of kind of make yourself known. And in this line, banking in the center, it's interesting. People have been here for a long time, similar to Mansfield. I mean, everybody knows everybody in Mansfield for the most part, but here in Colchester, it's unique in that a lot of businesses are struggling. I mean, staffing is an issue at a lot of the restaurants here in town. Hours are changing, things like that. There's the Noel's Market that's here. Sort of kind of like if you compare it to like a Highland Park, I guess, similar to that. They're one of my clients, and it's great to sort of kind of hear the buzz and the feedback. I really want to get to know the Business Association, CBA, because I've not really met them or participated in any events that they would have. And like I said, over the summer, they would have something on the green, whether it's the auto show, whether it was the carnival, things like that. So to compare it to Mansfield, the people are different versus in Mansfield or in Colchester. So I think that's one thing. The businesses, there seems to be, more somewhat businesses, as here in Colchester, even though it's spread out. And, who have approached me has been the town, the town manager. I think it was I got the tax collector, the finance director, again, being in my line of work, they're clients of mine. So, by default, I have Bacon Academy. So there was somebody new there, for example, and, so she introduced herself to me. So that's been great. But as far as the other businesses locally, even next door to me here, it's kind of interesting. They're all very, independent of one another. And so I not have gotten into the sort of kind of behind the scenes, so I really don't know. So hopefully next year we'll see what happens, depending on where I am.
Well, put in a good word for Mansfield. Tell them how great it is up here. A downtown partnership, we're like rocks.
Yeah. So yeah, so I see my business card says stores on it, and of course they immediately assume Yukon and stuff. Or I went to Yukon 25 plus years ago, and all it was farm country and whatnot. So, or they have a student, a child going up to stores. So that's sort of been sort of the tying factor when having conversation with parents, especially with back to school. And again, the whole COVID and the uptick and stuff like that, it's kind of interesting. Mansfield, it's still mask up, but here in the town of Colchester, they've done away with the masks. So it's kind of interesting. It really is. Yeah. A lot of pushback, I'll be honest, with a lot of some of those views.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Mario, thank you so much for coming in and sharing a little bit about your perspective. And we're concerned about you with the sort of the uncertainty here with the bank, but I'm sure there's plenty of business here. So
yeah, no, it is. So I mean, just a FYI, we are merging with M&T Bank. Right now, we've gone through just a quick snippet. We've passed through the New York regulatory and the Connecticut financing body. They've approved the merger. We're now waiting for the federal government. So if and when that does happen, what will happen is the name will be People's United Bank, a division of M&T Bank. So we're in that sort of kind of name change, if you will, as a merger goes. Come May, Memorial Day weekend, actually, is when, if everything goes well, the actual conversion of systems will take place, and the actual sign will then become M&T Bank, and People's United Bank will be no more. So yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot going on, and of course, right now we're in a holding pattern because we're waiting for the government to sort of kind of sign off on saying yes, you can merge. And until that time, we're just waiting, and we're still doing things independently. So the store's office is still going to be there. That's not changing. And as far as M&T Bank, I don't know if anybody knows or is familiar with M&T. They've been around for about 160 years. People's has been around for like 175. Excuse me. It's two banks coming together to create one big bank. We'll be the 11th largest bank in the country, and we'll be a northeastern bank. So we go from Maine down to Virginia, West Virginia, Washington, D.C., Maryland. They have a huge presence. M&T Bank has no presence in our footprint. So like on the eastern side of New York, and from Massachusetts, Maine, things like that, Connecticut. They do have branches in Connecticut, Fairfield County, actually. But yeah, so it's a lot of positive. I'll be honest with you. I mean, you heard on the news as far as with any mergers, people being let go, things like that. I'll be honest, in the retail sector, which is where I am, we're keeping people. We're paying more, and we're trying to send incentives out to get more people in, and we're in that sort of kind of conundrum right now. But yeah, should be good. Should be good for everybody.
wonderful. Well, thank you, and thank you for your time, both in volunteer efforts as well as your involvement on the board, your attendance. We track all of this, right, Mario? We want to make sure you're doing great. Thank you.
Thanks, I appreciate it, everybody.
This was very helpful. You can stay. We're going to be wrapping up the rest of our agenda here. You can either yield your time to the committee and we can continue on, or if you want to stick with us, feel free. Next, we're going to be going on to the update on the strategic plan with Sean. Oh, Sean,
Hey,
there
Frank,
you
can you hear me okay?
Yeah, sounds good.
I don't have much to update unless Cynthia or Kyle have anything to add.
Yeah, so I can update the committee briefly. So we had a meeting with Larissa and Noor last week. They went through their presentation that they'll be giving the board at its meeting next Thursday. Pretty comprehensive, a lot of things they've alluded to in terms of strategies and recommendations. I got so they made a couple of changes that Kathleen and I suggested, not really to the substance, but I wanted them to acknowledge or someplace put in there things that may go away because there's a lot of additions. So that's something too, that's probably a question for the board too. If the board decides that it wants to implement all their suggestions or most of them, there's got to be a discussion of what potentially goes away or additional staff, additional funding. I'm not sure I see any other way around it, but we'll get there. We also, they didn't address some of the operations. They addressed a little bit of governance and definitely financial, but sort of the parking responsibility, the Nash Zimmer responsibility. So, which wasn't necessarily their task, but that's something that needs to be discussed. I also want to go back and look at the contract too, to ensure that they're meeting their obligations. And Sean, I don't have it right in front of me, but I do recall that I thought we had them put some financial numbers around how much some of their suggestions would cost, but I just haven't had a chance to do that since our meeting. So I've pulled the contract, but haven't had a chance to evaluate it. So I suspect that the meeting next week will be the first of at least two. I'm not sure Larissa and Noor will be back, but I think there's going to be, more discussion. So I think you all be interested to see what they've come up with. They definitely have some examples of other communities that have done such and such. So Kyle and I will talk about the process. He and I have a check-in this Wednesday, just in terms of whether, we'll do this in executive session or regular session.
Cynthia,
Yes,
have they met your expectations so far?
yes, I think they have. Yep. They're pretty comprehensive. They're conscientious. They've come up with some new ideas. So yeah, I think they have.
Okay, thank you.
Well, it looks like we lost Sean. I thought he was off mute, so I thought we were going to get a wrap-up comment, but
Sounded like he might be in the car.
all right. Well, thank you. Thank you, Cynthia and Sean, for that update. It looks like, so just timeline wise, when will we get the next sort of cut to review?
So that'll be at the board meeting on the 2nd. So,
Okay.
and just as a reminder, it's at Graduate Stores. So Larissa will not be there in person. Kathleen's gone over to the hotel to start playing the tech. So she'll be up on the screen. The rest of us will be there in person. And then we'll go to at least most people will go to the event right outside the conference room. So we'll be in one of the, I guess, the smaller conference room, but it's big enough for the whole board and for staff.
Great.
Yeah, exciting. It's exciting.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thanks for the update on the strategic plan. We had next says it's titled here, deferral of video concept, and this is, I think, Cynthia, you and I talked. Did you talk to Prabhas too? Get a chance to?
No, I didn't.
Well, Prabhas, we were when Cynthia and I were talking a couple of weeks ago after the last governance committee. We suggested that perhaps we should just wait a little bit longer to have our group really, task group get together and talk about it until after we've heard a little bit more from the strategic plans. So much of the marketing piece is being addressed there. So I hope you don't mind. And I just wanted to bring it up because it was something that was discussed here in the governance committee. So Cynthia, is there anything you want to add to that?
No, that's completely accurate.
Okay, so it'll come back. It just maybe after the December meeting, we'll revisit that
Sounds
point.
good.
4:55. Any other items that you want? Whoa, watch out, Cynthia.
Sorry,
Again.
it was the iPad. I'm sorry. I know. I apologize.
That's all right. It scared me there
Couple
for a
of
minute.
times.
Like, what did I miss?
Sean- I just readmitted Sean, so I don't know if he's briefly going to come in. Assuming I did it
Okay.
correctly. Let me just, I don't know if you want to
I
make.
hate for us all to adjourn right as he's coming back in, so.
Yeah, we'll just see, but he's not popping up, so.
All right, well, thank you all for this, the participation in today's meeting, and we'll look forward to seeing you at the full board meeting in December. Again, thank you, Mario, for joining us and lending your perspective as an active member of the business community, as well as a board member now for 2 years. And Sean, thank you for your report on the strategic plan. Cynthia did a great job too when your absence there for a moment. So thank you. We'll look forward to hearing more at the board meeting. Seeking a motion to adjourn if there's nothing more for us to, no more transactions. Yeah. Diana, was this questions or you're taking, I think I saw Diana
We're moving
first.
to adjourn.
Yeah, that's to adjourn.
All right, I'll take Betsy as the making the motion, Diana as the second.
Thank you, Mario.
Wonderful.
Same to you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great
Yeah.
night.
Bye-bye.
Hi, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Right.
Nah.
Cynthia?
Yes,
I will be out of state the week of the next meeting. Just so you know, I'm not ignoring you.
the week of the board meeting or,
Yeah, board meeting.
okay. Okay, yeah, thanks for letting me know, Betsy.
Thank you. I'm sorry to miss it because I'd like to hear all that, but I'll catch up with you.
Yeah, there'll be other opportunities.
Yep,
I see
thank
Steve
you.
wants,
Have
Yeah,
a nice
Cynthia.
Thanksgiving, everybody.
you too.
All right.
Say hi to my friend Ann.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Cynthia?
Yeah, do you want me to take this off record or?
No, when the motion was made to approve the minutes, I tried to abstain, but my mute was on.
Oh, okay.
Can the minutes reflect the fact that I abstained from that action on that motion?
Yes, I've got it.
Great, thank you.
All right. I'll see you next week.
Okay, take care.
All right, you too. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Bye.
Bye.